The first death happened in the open. It was market day. People were already gathered when the shouting began near the council road. By the time anyone reached the sound, the man was on the ground, bleeding from the head. He was a court messenger, recognized by the red cord around his wrist. His bag was still on him. Nothing had been taken. What unsettled people was not how he died, but where. He had collapsed directly in front of the council gate. By evening, everyone knew the rumor. The man had been running from someone, not to anyone. Chief Aremu, ruler of the lowlands, ordered the body removed before nightfall, not out of respect, but to stop discussion. He understood power well enough to know that uncertainty spreads faster than truth. But the damage was already done, because that night, another thing happened. A man crossed the eastern path that had been closed for 15 years. His name was Sòkún, and the elders had sworn he would never return. Sòkún did not arrive with followers. He arrived alone, carrying nothing but a travel staff and a scar across his jaw that everyone remembered. 15 years earlier, he had been accused of organizing a revolt against the council. 3 guards had died. The council needed a name to blame, and Sòkún had been convenient. He was outspoken, popular among laborers, careless with his opinions. He was given a choice: execution or exile. He chose exile. Now he was back. From Aremu's perspective, Sòkún's return was not dangerous because of violence. It was dangerous because it reopened questions that had been settled by force and silence. Aremu had inherited leadership during chaos. To stabilize the land, he relied on 3 things: controlled taxation, selective punishment, and loyal enforcers. The most loyal of them was Balogun, a man raised by the council, trained to believe that order mattered more than fairness. Balogun and Sòkún grew up together. That made everything worse. Sòkún did not speak publicly at first. He went to people individually. A farmer whose land boundaries had been quietly shifted. A widow whose appeal had been delayed until she gave up. A trader fined repeatedly for vague offenses. Sòkún asked careful questions. He took notes. He cross-checked stories. When accounts didn't match, he returned to clarify. This was not rebellion, it was documentation. Balogun noticed. From Balogun's viewpoint, this was unsettling. Violence he understood, anger he could control, but Sòkún was rebuilding memory, and memory could not be arrested easily. Aremu ordered surveillance. Not arrest, not confrontation. Delay. That delay allowed Sòkún to expose something small but dangerous, a false tax ledger that showed inflated harvest figures from eastern farms. It wasn't enough to remove anyone from power, but it was enough to fracture confidence. Balogun was ordered to plant evidence. Nothing dramatic. A forged note linking Sòkún to the dead messenger. A suggestion that Sòkún had threatened him earlier. Balogun hesitated. Not because he believed Sòkún was innocent, but because he knew how fragile falsehoods were. Once introduced, they needed constant reinforcement. He did it anyway. That choice marked him, because later, when the council questioned him privately, he could no longer separate duty from fear. Trade slowed. Farmers delayed payments. People stopped reporting minor crimes. Authority had not collapsed, but it was being tested. Aremu summoned Sòkún publicly. The charge: destabilization and indirect responsibility for the messenger's death. Sòkún denied the killing calmly. He did not accuse anyone in return. Instead, he asked for permission to present records. This unsettled the council. Evidence meant process. Process meant delay. Delay meant uncertainty. They allowed it. That decision nearly destroyed them. The hearing lasted 2 days. Witnesses spoke. Some were clear, some contradicted themselves. One key witness failed to appear entirely. The forged note was introduced. For a moment, it worked. Sòkún faltered. He had not anticipated that document. His argument weakened. From Balogun's viewpoint, this should have been the end. But something went wrong. One elder, old, cautious, respected, asked a simple question: who authorized this document? Silence followed. The forgery could not be traced cleanly. Too many hands had touched it. No one wanted ownership. Suspicion turned inward. Aremu intervened, cutting the session short and ordering Sòkún detained for safety. That was the moment control slipped. Not violently, psychologically, because people understood something had been hidden. That night, Balogun visited Sòkún in holding. They spoke quietly. Balogun admitted nothing directly, but he explained how order had been maintained, how fear had been measured, how truth had been adjusted to preserve stability. Sòkún listened. The next morning, Balogun testified, not against Aremu directly, but against the methods. That testimony was incomplete, careful, still devastating. Aremu ordered his arrest. The guards hesitated. Not long, just enough. Aremu was removed from leadership by the council to prevent unrest. He was not executed, he was erased. A new council was formed, rules were rewritten, the forged charges were quietly withdrawn. Sòkún was released. He did not take power, he left again. Balogun was executed weeks later for procedural violations. The land stabilized, but nothing felt resolved. People spoke more carefully now. Records were kept more tightly. Power adapted. From the elders' final account written years later, one sentence stood out. The season ended, but it did not cleanse us. It only taught us how fragile silence is.